We have the Reclassify tool. Is really commonly used in transforming data from one form into a much more simplified form. And this is really common when you are comparing data sets that have different measurement units. So imagine we have data about sea surface temperature, and we have data about ocean salinity, sea surface salinity, so saltiness. And one is going to be in micrograms per liter. The other is going to be in degrees. How do you even begin to compare those two? Well, you could reclassify them to say values of 1 to 10, with 1 being low, 10 being high, and say, look for areas where you have low values, so like low salinity, low temperature, you'd end up with 2 1s. High of both, you'd end up with 2 10s. It allows you to compare across data sets with these different measurement units. So how it works is you say, okay, I've got this raster with values all over the place, and you give it a table and you say, okay, old values within this range, this 0 to 0.25, turn them into a value of 1. Values 0.75 to 1, high values, turn them into a value of 4, which allows you to transform your data from continuous into discrete. You can also turn discrete data into discrete data, just to simplify the discrete data set into something reclassified. Like when we created our land cover map for Skidmore, maybe we wanted to lump pavement and building together. We could reclassify that so those became a single class. That makes sense? Reclassifying data into some sort of standardized form. Cool. So visually, kind of looks like this, right? So we've got sort of high areas, low areas, medium areas. When we reclassify, it just gets a lot chunkier, right? Because we lose all the precision from the first raster on the left there, and it just gets simplified on the right here. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to reclassify this data set. So I want to reclassify my, my difference data into binary data set. How about I assign a value of -1 to places that have had a decrease in temperature and a value of +1 to places that had an increase in temperature. So we'll be left with a binary map with just sort of 2 colors on it. So I'm going to do this by going to the processing toolbox and searching for reclassify by table. I'm going to double click on that. That's going to bring up this window here. It's asking me what raster layer I want to reclassify. I'm going to choose my difference layer again. Then it's asking for a reclassification table. So you all remember when we were in the PowerPoint here, and we had this table, sort of a set of rules for how you want to reclassify one thing to another. So what this is asking for is essentially asking us to build that table right here. So we do that by clicking on these little 3 dots. We get this window, and we have to add all of the rows of information that we want. So in this case, we're going to add 2. So our minimum, let's just make it a big number to make sure we capture all of the data. And our maximum will be 0, right? We want our break to be all the negative numbers. We're going to reclassify that to a value of -1. And then values that are a value of 0 and a maximum, let's do maximum of 100, not that any ocean temperature is 100. We're going to say, take all those pixels and reclassify them to a value of 1. And then once you build your table, you can click OK. And this is a super simple example. Of course, we could reclassify it into sort of like low, medium, high. We could reclassify it in any number of ways, but we're just going to do sort of this binary -1 and +1. Again, I want to make sure I keep this file, so I'm going to go down to my reclassified raster. I'm going to say save to file, and I'm going to call this SST reclass. And then I'm going to click run. And I will get a new table. It's kind of hard to look at, right? where all values, I'm going to go into my layer styling here. I'm going to switch from single band gray to paletted values and classify that. Okay, that's a little easier to grasp, but these -1 values, I'll assign those, we'll assign those blue. Those are our cooling values, and our +1 values, I'm going to give those, those will be in the red world. Oh, that's a terrible color, but we're going with it. All right, so what this goes with is sort of a snapshot. Really simply, red is areas where temperatures have increased over time. Blue are areas where temperatures are decreasing. And this allows us, with many fewer colors, to just get that quick snapshot of increase versus decrease. Doesn't tell us anything about the magnitudes in either direction, but what we do see is that in most pixels across the world, oceans are warming to 1 degree or another.